13 News Now at 5 begins with breaking news in Alafayette County. State police say 2 people are dead after a wreck on Route 460 east of Zunai. Happened around 2:15 this afternoon, and this is a live look at the scene. Police say a grain truck ran off the road onto the westbound shoulder, overcorrected, and crossed the center line. That truck then hit a car head on, killing 2 people who were inside the car. We'll bring you the latest developments as they come in.
A Virginia Beach brewery closes its doors less than a year and a half after opening. And as the craft brewing scene grows in Hampton Roads, many are questioning what went wrong for Green Flash. 13
News Now reporter Robert Boyd is live at the brewing company in Virginia Beach. And what have you learned?
Well, today's closure certainly came as a surprise to loyal customers here at Green Flash, as well as the employees themselves. Green Flash says that 36 people lost their jobs here today when it closed down. And we spoke with a former manager here off camera, and he basically said that it came, as a complete shock to him. He thought business was booming, at least in the tasting room. However, we also went to another brewery who said the writing was definitely on the wall. Aaron Hawley of Vassar Brewing in Virginia Beach runs a 15-barrel brew house. Green Flash had a 50-barrel brew house. Aaron said when you expand too big too quickly, you can have problems, especially considering Green Flash is from San Diego, not Hampton Roads.
Why would somebody buy Green Flash beer over O'Connor's beer or Smart Mouth's beer or Fosterhund's beer? And I think that's part of the issue was.
Vassar Brewing, along with about 50 other breweries across the country, have already been approached about buying the old Green Flash brewery and the equipment inside, which is all less than 2 years old.
If you're a small brewery looking to expand or a large brewery looking for different regional operations, or even if you're an investor or someone trying to get into the business, this is plug and play, ready to go, flip the switch on, and you get this beautiful state-of-the-art facilities.
But Aaron says most local breweries don't want or need a 58,000 square foot facility. He thinks it can be tough to find a buyer, at least locally.
Not that location.
Why do you think?
Too big. Some of those tanks, several stories high.
Aaron also says last year was a down year for larger craft breweries. He says now is not the time to take chances.
If you look at some of the stats, if you produce more than 10,000 barrels, you actually had negative growth, while people who produced about 1,000 to 10,000 barrels had 15% growth.
Now, Green Flash did in the last hour send me a press release regarding why they closed this location. They basically said it was just too much of a challenge having 2 breweries on each side of the country, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. One had to go, so obviously they closed this one here in Virginia Beach. Now, coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, we're going to hear from Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessoms about Green Flash closing down and why he's optimistic that a new brewery is going to move in relatively quickly. Live in Virginia Beach, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
Well, thank you, Robert. The city of Virginia Beach gave Green Flash a $275,000 grant to open here, and the brewery fulfilled the terms of that grant when it invested $20 million by building its facility. Because of that, Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessoms says Green Flash won't have to return the grant money.
Well, new information about a deadly shooting in Hampton yesterday afternoon. 30-year-old Anthony Floyd Jr. was killed. Police say Floyd and 29-year-old Willie Milligan walked into a home on Cathan Drive with guns. Now, a man in the home pulled his gun out and shots were fired. Milligan is facing several charges, including armed burglary. Now, tomorrow, police will hold a reset walk in that neighborhood. Reset stands for Rapid Engagement of Support in the Event of Trauma. It's the division's way of starting a conversation in a community that has recently experienced violence.
A group of Virginia Beach firefighters is suing the city, claiming they were wrongfully denied promotions. The 4 firemen say their superior gave confidential test information to 2 other firefighters. 13 News Now reporter Jacqueline Lee is in the studio to explain.
Janet, according to these court documents, when it came to light that confidential test information was shared, the fire department conducted an investigation. After determining the 2 firefighters had an unfair advantage, one of them was demoted, the other one was promoted to captain. Doubt now plagues the Virginia Beach Fire Department after 2 candidates cheated to become captain, according to a recently filed lawsuit.
It's just devastating. It's embarrassing. It should just never have happened.
William Bailey is president of the Virginia Beach Firefighters Association and is speaking on behalf of the 4 firefighters who filed the lawsuit, claiming they were cheated out of an opportunity to promote.
There's sort of a cloud that hangs over each of them, and that shouldn't be the case.
According to court documents, the process was tainted after former Battalion Chief William Reynolds gave confidential information about the test to candidates Nina Myers and Ronson Carr. Myers received a 95 and Carr received a perfect score. As a result, Carr was promoted to captain.
Well, when you're part of the team and you're promoted as an officer, your crew trusts you. They believe that you've earned the promotion that you have, and they look up to you. But then it came out that Reynolds gave out confidential information. The city's personnel board held a hearing and unanimously decided that the captain's test was compromised. However, the lawsuit says the fire department didn't do anything, and Carr still stands as captain.
So they feel, kind of cheated.
Attorney Andrea Ruge is representing them and said she feels the city has avoided handling the situation.
No compensation. They want the 2017 captain's promotional process to be thrown out, to be re-administered, and again to take part in a fair and equal process.
And I reached out to the city for comment on this lawsuit. The city attorney wouldn't speak on camera, but sent a statement saying that the personnel board ruled the challenged promotion process not be set aside, and the city believes the personnel board's decision was consistent with law and city policy and will defend the lawsuit. Jacqueline Lee, 13 News Now.
Well, new information about the fraud and forgery case against Portsmouth Councilman Mark Whitaker. This comes as the judge specifically assigned to that case is recusing himself. A 13 News Now investigative reporter Laura Geller joins us with more.
Well, just today, Judge William Andrews' recusal was posted to the official court file. The order is a short, handwritten note on the bottom of an order on another issue. It only says he consulted with the Supreme Court and showed good cause for stepping down. Up until now, we've only been able to tell you the 20 charges involve Mark Whitaker, his church, its development company, and its federal credit union. But new documents shed light on what authorities accuse the Portsmouth councilman of doing. Whitaker's attorneys requested the motions be sealed, but we found them in the public court record. Included in the motions, pages of the transcript from special grand jury testimony that is supposed to be secret. Here, one of the investigators tells jurors the New Bethel Federal Credit Union had around $240,000 in loans that were not repaid. He says about Whitaker, he had taken all the money from the credit union. That was his own piggy bank. Whitaker's attorneys, on the other hand, say at the time of the special grand jury hearings, the Commonwealth already knew the loans had been paid in full. Included in the record, this email to investigators, which says there were no loans outstanding when the credit union was liquidated in July of 2015. In other testimony, an examiner with the National Credit Union Administration says for many of the credit union's loans, they aren't sure which were paid back and which might have been refinanced. She also details loans to Whitaker and his family members, which were not permitted to be made. The special prosecutor tells me he is prohibited from commenting because the special grand jury proceedings are supposed to be sealed. Less than 20 pages of a transcript, which is hundreds of pages long, were released in the motion. Sources say it does not paint the whole picture of the case. Laura Geller, 13 News Now.
The fight for stricter gun control laws continues in the United States. Right now, students in Wisconsin are marching 50 miles from the state capitol straight to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan's hometown, sending the Speaker a message that more needs to be done. And in New Jersey, lawmakers are voting today on a new bill that would increase gun restrictions. Elsewhere, some politicians say they see little value in recent protests.
How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve their problem, do something about maybe taking CPR classes?
Well, former Senator Rick Santorum is getting heavy criticism for saying to students on CNN that instead of asking lawmakers to make a change, they should deal with the problem themselves.
And over the weekend, the nation stood in solidarity to protest gun violence. Now, March for Our Lives movement sprang up in downtown Norfolk, Washington, D.C., and all across the country. At 13 News Now, photojournalist Stephen Wozni went to our nation's capital to capture the action.
people in my community died, and I don't want to come home to another mass shooting. I shouldn't have to come home to see my school covered in flowers. My name is Brianne Merchant. I'm an alumni from Stoneman Douglas, and I graduated in 2016.
They know that if there is no assault weapons ban passed, then we will vote them out.
Nobody expected it to happen to us. I think when it happens to kids, when it happens to kids in Parkland, we're not going to give up. It's Parkland. These kids are amazing. Emma, Jacqueline, David, Cameron, all these kids from Douglas, they were given a platform.
They know that if there is no shrinking of magazine capacity, then we will vote them out.
They used that energy and they launched a movement.
It is our time to stand up. Register to vote. Bring power to the polls.
We prepare our signs, we raise them high. We know what we want. We know how to get it, and we are not waiting any longer.
I'm so proud of them.
Well, protesters have already planned their next event. Another nationwide school walkout will be on April 20th, the anniversary of the Columbine High School massacre.